First, space voyages. The noted Bulgarian-born researcher and self-described dissident scientist Vladimir Trzynski claims that a different anti-gravity propulsion technology was used for the so-called Vril craft designed by the German scientists Richard Meath and Rudolf Schreiber. These discs were developed in the early 1940s. According to Trzynski, the Meath rocket craft was built in diameters of 15 and 50 meters, and the Schreiber-Walter turbine-powered craft was designed as an interplanetary exploration vehicle. He claims that it was this technology that achieved a moon landing as early as 1942. He says, first landing on the moon by the Germans was at Mare Imbrium on August 23, 1942 at 11:26 a.m. using a Meath rocket. The first man on the moon was Kapitan Lieutenant Werner Thiesenberg of the Kriegsmarine. Landing took place without radio contact to the main control center at the Wilhelmshaven, or the second control center located near Anzio, Italy. Ever since their first day of landing on the moon, the Germans started boring and tunneling under the surface. And by the end of the war, there was a small Nazi research base on the moon. This mission undoubtedly originated somewhere in Germany. However, after the war, all Nazi space travel originated from New Schwabenland. This was given the code name Base. Base. How low can you go? Death row, what a brother know. Base. 211. More base for your face. The Nazi plan to implement the Fourth Reich depended on the takeover of the American economy, especially banking, as well as the media, the aerospace industry, and the military. They never expected to win World War II once the United States entered the war in 1941, despite Hitler's public bluster to the contrary. All of his speeches had only one purpose. They were all calculated to win over and maintain the worship and trust of the populace, and it worked. But the military leaders knew better. They knew that America was a sleeping giant, protected from invasion by two oceans, with tremendous industrial potential, and that they wouldn't be able to compete with America's industrial might once it was set in motion. They had learned well the lesson of the Kaiser. Chief of Staff General Ludwig Beck refused to swear an oath of loyalty to Hitler for that reason and resigned in 1938. Even during the war, they had depended on American-built Ford vehicles as well as refined American petroleum. However, they knew that they would be ahead in terms of new bioscience and aerospace technology and weaponry once it was moved to Antarctica, which would allow them to take the upper hand in the solar system, especially on the moon and Mars. So, they basically abandoned their European base of power and focused on building a base of operations in South America and Antarctica as early as 1943. This may also explain why they decided to invade Russia instead of England and America. They wanted to keep the American industrial superstructure and economy intact until they could take it over. They were supremely confident because they had the reptilian technology and a solar system accessible base of operations in Antarctica to rely on. The reptilians had many reasons for wanting human colonies under their control out in the solar system and beyond. But mainly their plan was to get their Nazi lieutenants there first so that they would be in control when the rest of the human race achieved space travel and settlements, and the humans could then be enslaved to work on other planets as they were on Earth. When the Star Trek generation would arrive on the moon and Mars, they would encounter perhaps toned-down versions of Auschwitz, where work makes one free would be emblazoned over the entrance gate, and where slavery could be used because the human spirit would be crushed. And that is the current situation. The only humans who are now permitted to come to Mars are slaves, unless they are part of the interplanetary corporate conglomerate or the MDF. Base 211 was the key to the Nazis' expansion out into the solar system, even though they were developing facilities all over Argentina. Their main technical and scientific assets were concentrated in Antarctica. We know that the Nazis had plenty of above-ground space as part of Base 211. It may be recalled that in the first expedition of the Schwabenland in 1938, they discovered large ice-free areas. It is very likely that they constructed spaceship launch facilities in those areas, where they had easy access of men and materials from underground. Most likely, these were camouflaged to prevent detection from above. Well, folks, that's the most recent installment of the Dark Fleet series. Stay tuned. There's more to be coming out. Stay tuned, folks. Namaste. Namaskaram.